So this is a Spooky2 Rife technology only for beginners seminar, and I will start to talk a little bit about myself. Okay, give me a second. I have to do some stuff on the other screen. Okay. First of all, I am from Canada, but I am of Romanian origin. I am an electronics engineer with over 40 years of experience. I was trying to, and a number of patents both in Canada and Romania. I practice martial arts as a way of development at all levels, physical, mental, and spiritual. In order to maintain my health, I also practice Qigong, Reiki, and meditation. I also use Qi and Reiki to help other people. I believe that the future of medicine is energy healing, both in hands-on and equipment-assisted forms. I know that it not only helps to maintain health, but it also allows one to recover from an unhealthy state. Years ago, I started to research following topics: Royal Rife's mortal oscillation rate studies, Nicola Tesla's scalar energy theory and experiments, recent advancement in bio-resonance and biofeedback. I started by looking at equipment like Bicom and Hunter Metatron. Unfortunately, most of the equipment on the market was too expensive for personal use. A few years ago, I found about Spooky2 equipment and I was amazed of their low prices. I immediately bought and used Spooky2 generators, then Spooky2 Scalar and Spooky2 Central. I am very happy with my investment in my and my wife health. I love all these devices, and because each of them has its own benefits, I want to talk about all or most of them. If you understand them, you'll be able to choose the best one for your intended use. Okay, I'll tell you a few words about the Spooky2. Albert Einstein made this word famous when he referred to particle quantum entanglement as spooky action at a distance. In 2013, an international team of electronics engineers, technical designers, software developers, and Rife practitioners chose this name for a range of experimental energy healing devices. What impressed me about Spooky2 is the fact that it's a highly ethical company, focused on helping people and not on profit, due to the fact that this company believes that it's better to help the many rather than to help a few. The costs are kept as low as possible. They have used the nearly non-existent profit for further research and development of Spooky2. A note at this point, the number 2 after the spooky refers to squid and is not a version of the software. Okay, I'm saying a lot of people are still coming. I'm saying hello to all of you and welcome to my presentation about Spooky2 Rife equipment. This presentation was built on the assumption that the audience, okay, give me a second here, okay, that the audience has none or limited knowledge related to Spooky2 Rife technologies and experimental healing devices. It is intended for people who have not yet purchased a Spooky2 device to help them decide on the best hardware selection for their particular needs. It is also useful for those who have already bought some Spooky2 equipment, but they don't know what the best use is and what to expect from them. Generally, when I'm presented with something new, I ask myself 3 questions. What exactly is this? Why would I use this? And how can I use this? Everyone is probably asking themselves the same question, consciously or not. However, in this presentation, given the vastity of the information, I will focus only the first two questions, and I will apply them to each piece of amazing Spooky2 Rife technology. As you can see on the first level of the diagram, there are two main technologies used to help our body to maintain health or recover from an unhealthy state: Rife and Scalar. We'll address each one in detail, but for now we'll focus on their main use and differences. Rife technology uses the principle that everything in nature, such as cells of our body, as well as the pathogens found inside us, have a unique resonating frequency. By applying this frequency to a pathogen in a specific way, we can kill it. By applying the resonance frequency to a healthy cell or organ to an unhealthy one in a different way, we can help restore the health of the latter. This process is called entrainment. This technology was first discovered by Dr. Albert Abrams in 1920s, but it was proven for the first time by the engineer Royal Raymond Rife in 1930s. Unfortunately, it was soon destroyed and forgotten until the beginning of the new millenniums. Scalar energy works in a different way. Scalar energy is just another form of electromagnetic energy. It has first discovered theoretically by James Clerk Maxwell, but its existence was proven practically by Nikola Tesla towards the end of the 19th century. Soon after, it was discovered that the scalar field of a certain frequency has a beneficial effect on the human body, as well as on plants and animals. This energy field has the same life-sustaining effect as Qi in Qigong or Qi in Reiki, and gives our body the life energy necessary to heal ourselves. Like other novel technologies, it has since been ignored and continues to be ignored by the mainstream health system. It was rediscovered and new devices were emerging at the beginning of the new millennium. This diagram shows the main difference between the Rife and the scalar energy and how this energy can be used for healing. In this diagram, you can observe the Spooky2 Rife and scalar technologies in detail. On the left side of the image, you can see that the main components of the Spooky2 Rife technology are the Spooky2 generators. To use these generators, you can utilize a Spooky2 boost that allows to connect the four categories of accessories: contact, Pmf, cold laser, and remote. Another way to use the generator is with the help with the Spooky2 Central that allows to connect a plasma tube and other optional accessories. The Rife technologies are most efficient for killing pathogens, but they also can be used for healing or entrainment. On the right side of the image, you can see the Spooky2 scalar device that can be used in three different modes: pure scalar, molecular scalar, and Rife scalar. The main function of the scalar technology is to supply the body with life-sustaining energy. But by combining the resonance principle with the scalar field, we get the best of both worlds: the healing, killing precision of Rife machines, and the overall life-sustaining effects of scalar field. In this presentation, I will focus on Spooky2 Rife technologies. The Spooky2 scalar technology makes the subject of a different presentation. Let's start with Rife technology. Royal Raymond Rife was an American scientist, inventor, and PhD in bacteriology from Johns Hopkins University and the University of Heidelberg. When he didn't find what he needed for his studies, he invented it. To study the behavior of live viruses and bacteria, he built two devices that were not available at that time. The first was the Universal Optical Microscope, which had a magnification of 60,000 and a resolution of 31,000, and used all types of illumination: polarized, monochromatic, white light, dark field, infrared, and other. This allowed him to study live pathogens and to see their in real life colors. The second one was the Rife frequency generator that was able to generate a wide band of pure sine frequencies ranging from 12,000 to 20 million hertz or 20 megahertz. This allowed him to find the resonance frequency of each pathogen he studied. Rife theory is based on the following principle. First, everything in nature, including pathogen, have a specific resonance frequency. And the second, a high intensity signal with a frequency that matches the resonating frequency of the pathogen kills that pathogen. This frequency is called motor oscillation rate, also known by his abbreviation MOR, M-O-R. The following video will illustrate the resonance principle. Several pendulums are attached to a flexible support that can transfer the oscillation from one pendulum to the others. Two things must be recognized. First, the resonance frequency of the pendulum depends on the length of the string. Second, only two pendulums have identical lengths in this experiment. Let's see what's happened when we hit different objects, in this case a set of different pendulums with the same frequency. Okay, give me a second here. Okay, I hope you can see it. As you could see in the first part, only the pendulum which has the same length as the driver pendulum, meaning with the same resonance frequency, oscillated in sync with it. In the second part, none of the pendulums oscillated because none had the same length as the driver pendulum, the longest on the right. This means that if we apply a certain frequency to our body, only the pathogen or the tissue that has the same resonance frequency will be affected by that signal, and nothing else will be affected. Let's see what's happened when you hit an object, in this case a wine glass, with a high intensity sound wave that has the frequency as its own resonating frequency.
Shock waves from a punch can do damage to the human body. Now we're going to time warp at 10,000 frames per second to see how sound waves destroy a glass. Jamie Vendera is famous for using the sound of his voice to destroy wine glasses. They seem to simply explode. But what's happening?
I know the sound waves broke the glass, but I couldn't see how. So I'm going to use our slow motion camera to see what we were missing. Instead of singing, I'm going to use a speaker and a tone generator. I have to find the natural vibrating frequency of the glass. I have to match this tone. That's it.
This is the exact tone to make this particular glass vibrate. When the tone is loud enough, the glass will shatter.
I can feel the glass shaking, but I can't see it. If I add a straw, then it's more obvious.
So what's happening here? The straw gets tossed side to side, but I can't see why.
Let's record it while I crank the volume. I took 10,000 frames per second, and I took 1 second. If I were to play back this whole video, it would take 8 minutes to get through.
Oh, this is amazing. What felt like the whole goblet vibrating is actually the rim bending back and forth, 337 times a second, the same rate as the sound waves. If I draw in the sound waves, you can see what's happening. One wave comes out of the speaker and pushes the side of the wine glass. The glass bounces back just when another sound wave pushes it again. If the timing or frequency of the sound waves is exactly right, the motion will build until the glass breaks.
Wow. So, as we would expect, the speaker breaks the glass nearest to it. And immediately we see a crack that goes all the way around the whole bottom of the frame. I'm going to play that back again. This is where the initial fracture happens, right nearby the speaker. And in about 3 frames, and this is 3/10,000ths of a second, we see this crack go along the bottom where the glass gets thicker and come right back up to the top where it's thin. So if we follow that a little more, this piece has just fallen off, but it doesn't in some sense even know that it's fallen off from the rest of the glass. All of the glass was shaking at about 300 hertz, 300 vibrations per second. And this piece is still doing that. You can see the corners of the glass still flexing as if they were influenced by the speaker, but the speaker is way too far away now to have that influence on this piece. It just has the leftover inertia. And we see that in all the pieces here, even along the top edge of this glass. This piece of glass is not resonant at that frequency anymore, so it can't get energy from the speaker, and all that we see shaking is the leftover energy from what the speaker gave it in order for it to break.
So, if you thought that glass couldn't bend, think again. Time warping changes the way we see the world because it makes the invisible visible.
As you could see, the application of a high volume sound that has the exact same frequency as the glass resonance frequency caused the destruction of the glass. The same thing happens to all types of pathogens, with the difference that we don't use a high volume sound but other methods that we will discuss later. Okay, in the next video we'll see what happens when identical pendulums, metronomes, are out of sync. We must notice that the pendulums are placed on the same board, which allows the oscillation to propagate from one to the other. As you could see, even though the beginning of the pendulums had different amplitude and phase, they were going unsynchronized, they ended up synchronizing with each other after a while. about 1 minute in this case. The process is called entrainment. This experiment explains how it is possible to bring back to health a damaged tissue or organ by applying the frequency of a healthy one. An experiment conducted by an international team of researchers studied the healing effect of sound therapy on coral reefs. The report was published in Nature Communication in 2019. Coral reefs worldwide are increasingly damaged by anthropogenetic stressors. The researchers recorded the sound of a healthy coral reef and played it on underwater speakers in a damaged coral reef environment. This was a double-blind study. The researchers compared the results to those where dummy speakers were used or where no speakers were used at all. The conclusion was a significant improvement in the health of the coral reefs, as well an increase in the fish population and number of the fish species. This was a success story of the healing obtained through entrainment method. The first thing we need to use Rife techniques, it's a Rife frequency generator, functionally similar to the one Rife himself used. Spooky2 offers two different generators, XM generators, you can see on the left image, and generator X on the right. First, you have the characteristics of each of them under the pictures, but first let's talk about similarities. They both have two perfectly symmetrical channels that can be synchronized with adjustable phase. They have various basic functions, waveforms of sine, triangle, square, sawtooth, pulse with adjusters duty. They can have output modulation, frequency sweep, amplitude sweep, duty cycle sweep, and others. Any arbitrary waveform edited on PC can be downloaded to either generator to output. The maximum amplitude is 20 volts peak to peak for both of them. And both of them, the DC offset from minus 100 to plus 100%. The DC offset is what makes a signal to become DC instead of AC, direct current instead of alternative current. You can see the differences between the two generators highlighted in red. The biggest difference is that generator X has two independent generators in the same box, as well its own CPU, which allows for standalone operation without computer. There is also a difference in the maximum output frequency, 5 MHz versus 40 MHz. But there are two things to mention regarding this aspect. First, the XM generator is capable to go up to 25 MHz with the software multiplication. Secondly, very few programs use high frequencies, and some accessories like plasma don't work over 3.5 MHz. So, depending on the application, this difference may not be significant. Another big difference is the fact that generators can measure the current and the phase of the output signal, sensing this way the reaction of the body to a certain frequency. This trait is useful for a biofeedback scan that can be done very fast, usually under 10 minutes, without the need of any other accessories. The XM generator needs external accessories to monitor the heart rhythm in order to do the scan, which usually takes about 1 hour. A less significant difference is the power adapter, 5 volts versus 12 volts DC. In case you have both types of generator, you must be careful not to mix the power adapter. Finally, the last difference is the price. It's about 1:5 ratio. So your choice should be based on two factors, budget and type of application. Before using the XM generator, let's take a closer look at it. Originally, the XM generator had the capability to be used in standalone mode, which means without being connected to a computer. In this mode, we can control the waveforms with the buttons situated next to the display. These buttons are power switch 1, F1 to F5 function buttons 2, rotary knob 3, TTL input output 4, external inputs 5, and channel controls 6. While all these buttons are very useful in research mode, they are impractical for our application. So, except the power switch, do not touch the other controls. Spooky2 software does everything you need. Now let's take a closer look at Generator X. As I said before, the Generator X has the capability to be used in standalone mode, which means without being connected to a computer. In this mode, we can control it using the buttons situated next to the display. These buttons are Power button 1, J1, J2 generator selection button 2, up and down arrows for program selection 3, Start button 4, Loop button 5, and Stop button 6. As you could notice, none of the buttons refer to the control of the signal type, like in the case of XM generator, but only to the selection of the program which contains that information, the frequency. The fact that the Generator X can be used in standalone mode doesn't mean that you don't need a computer at all. You still need a PC when you upload the programs you need to the generators, or every time later when you want to change or modify one of the programs already loaded. One of the advantages of Generator X is that you can use it in two different ways. In standalone mode, when the generator can independently run a program previously loaded from a computer. In computer-assisted mode, when the generator runs a program that is supplied by the computer and the Spooky2 software. Each mode has its own advantages and disadvantages. The standalone mode has the following benefits: has a simple setup, requires less space because of this, and frees your PC for other uses during the healing session. However, it has certain disadvantages. Has a limited number of programs, 30, that can be stored in the internal memory of Gen X. Certain more advanced programs and biofeedback can be run in standalone mode. In contrast with this, the biggest advantage of the computer-assisted mode is the fact that you can use any of the two Spooky2 generators, the XM generators or the Generator X. As you can assume, the other advantages of the computer-assisted mode are in fact the disadvantages of the standalone mode. You can run an unlimited number of programs. All programs can be run on the generator when connected to PC. Of course, these come with some disadvantages. Slightly more complicated setup, requires more space, and blocks the PC for the duration of the application. Let's talk about the Spooky Boost. Both Spooky2 generators have two outputs named Out1 and Out2. To connect the generator to an accessory, this is all we need for some application. However, some accessories need a different type of signal. In this case, we need to connect an interface called Spooky2 Boost. There are a few things to notice regarding this interface. Spooky2 Boost fits both XM generator and Generator X. It is connected to both Out1 and Out2 of either generator. It increases the number of type of outputs of the generator, and some accessories cannot work without the Spooky2 Boost. Let's talk about the outputs now. Two of them are very simple to understand. They copy the Out1 and Out2 outputs of the generator. Therefore, you have the boost. If you have the boost connected permanently to the generator for a diversity of application, you can use these two boost outputs instead of the original outputs of the generator. So you don't need to remove and reinstall the boost every time you change accessories. The high power port is a combination of out 1 and out 2, and it's used to practically double the voltage and increase the power of this output by 4. Of course, certainly conditions in the Spooky2 software settings tab are necessary for this, but these conditions are defined by the appropriate preset. The colloidal silver port has the same signal as the high power port, but the current is limited by a resistor. This port is used mainly for the colloidal silver application, but it can be used for contact applications such as in the case of people with high sensitivity. The BN or Bio-North and MN, the magnetic north connectors, are also combinations of out1 and out2, and they are used for remote only. Notice that the type of connector is different from the other 4 connectors. The MN port is a legacy port, and it's exactly the opposite of BN port, and it's backward compatible with the previous model of the remote. In conclusion, the decision to acquire and use a Spooky Boost depends entirely on the type of accessories you want to use with your generator. However, if you want to experiment with all type of available accessories, Spooky Boost it's a must. In this image, you can see all the possible and available application methods of Rife technology. As you can see, there are 5 possible application methods of Rife's frequency therapy: contact mode, PMF mode, cold laser mode, remote mode, and plasma mode. Some of these modes have their own benefits, but combined with Rife frequency therapy, the effects are enhanced. Knowing the benefits of each method can help you decide which method or methods are best for improving your own health. Each of those methods correspond to an accessory you can use with Spooky2 generators. Let's explore them one by one. The contact mode first. The contact mode was used for the first time in 1920s by Dr. Albert Abrams in his Oscillation class. His method was rather intuitive and experimental than scientific, and because of this, it was largely criticized. When Dr. Raymond Rife invented his technology, he experimented with a few different methods to transmit frequency to the human body. In later years, he actively considered to add DC electricity as a transmission mode via handheld electrodes. His business associates, John Crane and John Marsh, continued to use these methods in the 1950s and 1960s. In the image, you see displayed a Rife frequency instrument and the handheld electrodes from that period of time. Thankfully, the principle behind this mode of transmission, called contact or pad mode, survived despite the censorship to which this work was subjected. In 1950, Dr. Reinhold Wohl started to spread the idea of electroacupuncture that measured the resistance of different acupuncture meridians. He concluded that the health of the organ is determined by the flow of energies through the corresponding meridian. In 1970, a safe and practical transcutaneous electric nerve stimulation (TENS) device was created by Dr. Clyde Norman Shelley. As the name suggests, TENS units stimulate nerves with mild electrical pulses that penetrate directly through the skin. In 1994, Hulda Clark developed the Zapper, which was able to kill pathogens using electrical currents of different frequencies. Even though modern medicine does not consider this method as an efficient therapy, the same method is used to collect DC electrical signal from the heart in electrocardiogram and the brain in electroencephalogram. This proves the effectiveness of transmission of DC currents in human body. Let's see how this works. Contact mode consists an application of DC. DC means direct current. Electrical signal of a certain frequency by the means of 2 electrodes, handhold cylinders foot plates, tennis pads, foot baths, or any other type of electrodes in contact with the body. With sufficient power, a well-designed Rife machine can deliver this electrical energy deep enough into the body to reach all its organs. Finally, Spooky2 has another trick in its sleeve. The program allows you to create a type of carrier, a dynamic carrier, that is harmonically related to the audio frequencies, which penetrates deeper in the body and adds therapeutic value to the contact mode. The sensation perceived by a subject during a contact mode session is proportional with the amount of current that goes through the body. The current itself depends on two factors. The first, as expected, is the amplitude of the signal. This value is set up by the software, but it can be modified by the user in the settings tab. The other factor is the resistance of the body. As you can see in the image of the right, you have different values of the resistor depending from which points we are measuring it. The resistance depends mainly on the placement of the electrodes. The farther electrodes are, the higher the resistance value and the lower the current. But the resistance also depends on the subject. Young people and women have generally a lower cutaneous resistance than older men, so the amount of current and the perceived sensation is higher. Finally, the cutaneous resistance depends on the frequency of the signal. The skin is a complex biological tissue which with impedance varies depending on the frequency. At higher frequency, the impedance of the body is increased due to the capacitive component. Due to the fact that generally youth and women have higher capacitors, the current and the perceived sensation will be lower than in them than in men at the same frequency. We must also notice another element. The bioimpedance of the body also depends on the geographical location and race. If the person is highly sensitive to electrical current, the colloidal silver port can be used instead of the high power port. There are some confusions about the contact mode. One of them is the skin effect. Some people believe that the current will only go through the skin, not the internal organs. The misunderstanding comes from a law in electrical science that states that at a higher frequency, the AC current does not circulate through the entire conductor, but only through the external portion of it called skin. However, the skin effect is not present in the DC electricity to the same level, which is what all Rife machines use. The most important thing is that the law does not refer at all at human skin. Another confusion is related to the hollow organ. Some people believe that the signal is not able to traverse the empty space of a hollow organ. That this is true, but the signal is able to circulate through the external area of the hollow organ, propagating from cell to cell. Let's talk about the advantages of contact mode. Today, more Rife enthusiasts are using contact mode machines than any other type. One of the reasons is the simplicity of this method. Another one is the cost effectiveness of this application method. This is a highly effective way to introduce frequencies into the body and get them working quickly. The contact method is the most reliable method for biofeedback scans. Depending on the localization of the electrodes, this method can be used for treating or scanning small area or the entire body. The contact mode can be used effectively to kill pathogen, detox the body, or heal organs through entrainment. Let's take a look at Spooky2 contact mode accessories. The following image will help you get an idea about the choices available regarding what type of contact accessories you need. Handheld electrodes, tense pads, wearable electrodes, or internal electrodes. Here are a few details about each of them. Handheld electrodes are good for short treatments because you cannot hold them tight enough for long periods of time. From this point of view, the carbonized rubber electrodes have a better contact with the hand because of the profile. On the other hand, the stainless steel is useful for food bath application. Their advantage is the fact that they are fast and easy to use and they are durable. Also, they can be cleaned and used by multiple users. For longer treatments, the TENS pads are the most suitable solution. They provide a stable contact even when you move. Because of this, they are the only ones recommended for biofeedback scans. The disadvantage of that is that after a certain number of uses, they must be replaced. They can't be cleaned, and because of the possible DNA cross-contamination, they have to be dedicated to a single user. A reasonable compromise is the TENS contact kits that contains wearable electrodes for hands, arms, legs, and feet. They are made of silver impregnated fabric. They are comfortable, washable, but they still have to be worn by a single user because of the possible DNA cross-contamination. The last contact accessory is the internal electrode. As the name suggests, it is suitable for problems in the mouth, colon, or genital area. It is soft, flexible, and provides a comfortable frequency application. It is washable, but is still not advised to share it between users. Again, your choice depends on the type of application you have in mind. Let's go to the next type of application, PMF. As I already said, some of the application methods of the Rife frequency therapy have their own merits. Magnetic therapy is one of them. Magnetic field used to heal individuals date back 4000 BC. Hindus treated disease using magnetized stones known as lodestones. By 2000 BC, Chinese physicians had created written protocols for applying lodestones to acupuncture points. In the ancient Egypt, also appeared to have used lodestone, and Cleopatra is reported to have worn a small magnet to preserve her youth. In ancient Greece, lodestones were used by Hippocrates to alleviate headache. Later in 1600s, Sir William Gilbert used lodestone to relieve the arthritic pains of Queen Elizabeth I. The pulse electromagnetic field (PMF) therapy is a modern magnetic therapy application. This method has its own merit. It was first acknowledged in 1932 by a study at Yale University. The conclusion of the study was that PMF is able to donate energy to the depleted body, helping cells to repair, rebuild, and regenerate naturally. As early as 1979, the FDA approved PMF to combat bone loss. Later, FDA approves and recognized PMF effectiveness for different ailments ranging from pain to surgery recovery, leading to technologies being used nowadays for astronauts after they return to Earth. In 2011, PMF was recognized as a treatment for depression. Scientists have published thousands of studies, clinical trials, and research articles on the topic. You can find more information on the PubMed website. As you can see in the image in the top left corner, when an electrical current is running through a copper coil, it creates a magnetic field. These are known as pulse electromagnetic fields, or PMFs. This method is an effective way to introduce Rife frequency into the body. As you can see, this electromagnetic field is similar to the electromagnetic pulse of the Earth itself, known as Schumann resonance frequency, which is 7.83 Hz, or pulsation per second. PMF targets your body at cellular level to stimulate cell metabolism and improve your health. It re-energizes the energy depleted cells, restoring the cellular membrane potential to an optimal 70 millivolts. Numerous diseases, disorders, and injuries benefit from PMF treatments. In addition, there are none of the harmful side effects commonly associated with prescription drugs and medical procedures. Because of its natural effect as natural as the Earth's magnetic field, it does not have any side effects. The main effect of PMF is that it stimulates the cellular activity. The main benefits are enhanced cellular repair and recovery, joint cartilage repair, supported bone density, enhanced recovery and repair after exercise and injury. One of the consequences of increased cellular activity is the increase of oxygen content within the cells, which will lead to improved oxygenation in the tissues, detoxifying effect in the body, and better brain functions, as well as stress relief. Another effect of the PMF is the vasodilatation, which will cause an increase in blood and lymph circulation. Consequently, this will cause fortified immunity, better brain function, muscle relaxation and increased performance, reduced stress and improved sleep due to muscular relaxation, improved pelvic blood flow and function in people suffering from erectile dysfunction, reduction of swelling and chronic inflammation, and reduction of pain. In the image on the left, you can see the actual Spooky2 PMF coil. Because originally the PMF coil was designed for a different device, an audio to BNC adapter is needed for use with Spooky2 generators. In the lower left image, you can see the adapter that comes with it. In the image on the right, you can see the PMF coil connected to an XM generator and through a Spooky2 boost. As you can notice, the PMF coil is connected through the high power port. In the absence of the boost, you can connect it directly to out 1 or out 2 of either generator. Another application method for the Rife frequency therapy is cold laser. This method has its merit by itself. Professor Fritz Albert Popp was a German researcher in biophysics, particularly in the study of biophotons. His famous quote is, "We know today that man essentially is a being of light." He conducted research that confirms the existence of biophotons. This particle of light with no mass transmit information within and between cells. His work shows that DNA in a living cell that stores and releases photons, creating biophotonic emissions that may hold the key to healing illness and restoring health. Biophotonics is the science that results from the intersection of photonics and biology. It studies the interaction of living cells, bio, with the electronic imaging, detection, or control of light or photons. Cold laser, it's a low-intensity laser that uses safe, non-thermal light photons to accelerate the body's natural healing process. Professor Dr. Endre Mester, Semmelweis University in Hungary, first discovered the biological effects of low-level laser in 1967. The first cold laser was FDA cleared in 2001 after a carpal tunnel syndrome study at General Motors for their workers. New therapeutical applications have been discovered, especially in the last decades. Cold laser therapy, CLT, is also known as low-level laser therapy, LLT, low-power laser therapy, LPLT, soft laser biostimulation, or photobiomodulation. Cold laser is low-intensity laser that is unable to hit the tissues in the body. In the image on the right, you can see how a small beam of coherent light can reach the bones after traversing the skin and all the flesh layers in between. Photon is a massless particle that transports a small fraction or quanta of light energy. The photon is characterized by its wavelength or frequency, which determines the color of the light. Some frequencies are in the visible spectrum of the light, others are outside the human visible spectrum, like ultraviolet and infrared light. Essentially, the skin cells readily absorb the energy, which is then transformed into nitric. Okay, just give me a second. The skin cells are readily absorb the energy, which is then transformed into nitric oxide. This process also stimulates the formation of ATP, which promotes the regeneration of cells, hence improving the growth of health cells within the body. Photon light therapy are also promoting detoxification by catalyzing the synthesis of protein and collagen in mitochondria. Core lasers have coherent light. This means that the photons have the same frequency, they are in phase with each other, which means synchronized. The waves have identical amplitude. Core lasers are monochromatic, which means all the photons have a single wavelength, the same color, not different shades of the color. The tissue penetration range is specific to each core laser and it depends on the wavelength or color. The image on the right reveals that red laser with the wavelengths between 625 and 750 nanometers have the highest penetration in the visible spectrum. Indigo and blue laser with wavelengths between 380 and 495 nanometer have the smallest penetration in the visible spectrum. Let's observe how the core laser therapy works. The laser light is delivered to the tissue in contact mode with the surface of the skin. The light enters the cell's mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell, and it's absorbed by the photosensitive elements named chromophores, including one that's called CCO, which we can find in the inner membrane of the mitochondria, and this increases its activity. As a result, three types of molecules are affected. The ATP increases the cell's ability to fight infection and accelerate the healing process. The ROS positively impacts cellular repair and healing, and a nitric oxide, a vasodilatator that increases circulation, will decrease the inflammation and increase the transport of oxygen and immune cells through the tissue. As a result of the process I described in the previous slide, we can see the benefits of core laser therapy for the following types of problems: headache, tinnitus, neurological problems, joint cartilage problems, disc herniation, bursitis, bone damage, tissue degeneration, degenerative osteoarthritis, muscle tears, tennis elbow, carpal tunnel syndrome, wound and burns, dental issues, pain, and lymph node swelling. Spooky2 has a couple of different cold laser accessories. Both accessories combine the Rife technology with the benefits of laser therapy. In the upper left corner, you can see the cold laser wrist that is intended to be placed on the inner side of the left wrist using the supplied band. It has 5 lasers of 650 nanometers red light, which we saw has the highest penetration, 5 milliwatts each, in a total 25 milliwatts. In the lower left corner, you can see the cold laser twin. This one is intended to be used in the nostrils or ears. It has 2 lasers, 650 nanometers, again red light. They are this time 7 milliwatts each, a total of 14 milliwatts. In the image of the right, you can see the cold laser wrist connected directly to the XM generator out 1 port using the supplied cable. You can also connect the Spooky2 boost using the out 1 pass-through port. Let's talk now about the remote. Quantum physics suggests that two particles can be connected while not in direct vicinity. The quantum state of each particle of the system cannot be described independently of the state of the others. Simply put, it means that if any part of a single system is removed from that system to a different location, any action performed on the part will also be instantaneously performed on the parent system, and vice versa. Modern science refers to it as the quantum entanglement, QE. In 1920, Einstein labeled the phenomenon as spooky action at a distance. He didn't believe in it at the beginning. Quantum biology is the inevitable daughter of quantum physics and is the result of intersection between quantum physics and biology. In the 21st century, it was discovered that DNA remains connected to the body after being separated from it in a quantum entanglement state. Because of this, action on a separated DNA will trigger certain effects on the body, as well as action on the body will trigger a response on the separated DNA. The finding proves the quantum entanglement between the separated DNA and the parent body. This was the beginning of modern remote healing therapy. In the lower left corner, you can see a different type of entanglement. The following image shows the basic concept of Spooky2 remote and the way this works. The two coils are supplied with the same signal, but with opposite phase. Due to this phenomenon and the fact that the two coils are situated at close proximity, the two electromagnetic fields created by them cancel out each other, leaving an electric scalar field in the space between them. Because of the permanent magnet situated on top of the upper coil, there is also a magnetic scalar field component. This magnetic scalar field is capable to transmit a certain information or frequency to the DNA sample placed between the coils. Since the DNA sample is quantum entangled with the DNA in the parent body, the same information or frequency is transmitted to this one. The host, or the parent body, from which the DNA was extracted, will be influenced by the healing or pathogen-killing frequencies transmitting by the generator to the DNA sample in the remote. Now I will answer one of the questions somebody put at the beginning. He didn't have the patience to listen to all the presentation. The human DNA sources are various, and we can use the main one that we use, the most convenient one to use is the nails. The physical DNA in the nails lasts indefinitely, even like centuries. However, we know that humans, and not only humans, have a light body. Then the photonic DNA fades after a month. This is the reason that there is a recommendation to replace the nails every 3 to 4 weeks. Saliva is very easy, convenient to use, but you have to replace it every 3 days. The buccal skin cell can last 4 to 5 days. The blood. Spooky2 recommends to keep it only 5 to 6 days. Other sources says that you can keep it indefinitely as long as it is enclosed in a tube or another recipient. The hair with root can last 2 days. Only with root, the bulb contains viable DNA. Let's talk about the benefits of the remote accessories. Can be used with both healing and killing presets, can be and it is recommended to be used in conjunction with other Rife modalities, can be used for individuals who cannot use other modalities like children, pregnant women, people with electronic implants, and others. Can be used for multiple users simultaneously. You can place up to, let's say, 50 DNA sample nails in the remote. Can be also used on pets and plants, and doesn't create a fatigue during long-term use. It's effective regardless the distance between the sample and the target. It's simply convenient DNA insertion and removal. DNA can be placed anywhere within the holder, and it's not invasive. Let's take a look at the accessory offered by Spooky2. In the image at the left, you can see the remote in the closed working position and also in the open position ready for placing the DNA sample in the holder place. In the upper right image, you can see the Spooky2 XM generator with one remote connected through the boost. At the bottom, you can see the Spooky2 generator X with two remotes, each of them connected through a Spooky2 boost. In both cases, the remote is connected to BN port of the boost. Plasma was first identified in 1878 in a discharge tube by Sir William Crookes, who called it radiant matter. The nature of this matter was later named plasma by Irving Langmuir in 1928 because it reminded him of blood plasma. Plasma mode is the original Rife application method. The first two devices were built with off-the-shelf components. This couldn't protect his project. Later, his engineer Philip Hoyland built the Beamray Clinical No. 3, custom-made for Rife. The method consists of application of plasma generated by a plasma tube. You can see this device and the accompanying tube in the image at the right. In 1930s, Rife used this method to treat 16 terminally ill cancer patients. After 3 months, 14 of them were declared cancer-free by the doctors participating in the trial. After another month and a small modification of the protocol, the remaining ones were declared cancer-free too. In the 1980s, author Barry Lyons reignited interest in Rife machines with his book, The Cancer Cure That Worked. A new version of the book was published in 2007 under the name Rife's World of Electromedicine. The year 1990 marked the first modern plasma machines. Most of them were used in industry. In 2010, the last Rife machine, Beamray Clinical No. 5, resurfaced and it was analyzed and understood. From that moment, a few researchers started to attempt to replicate Rife invention. Plasma medicine is an emerging, highly interdisciplinary field that combines plasma physics, life sciences, and clinical medicine, as you can see in the diagram on the right. So far, known applications are biodecontamination and sterilization, dermatology, dentistry, and of course, medical therapy. More applications are under research as we speak. Plasma is the fourth state of the matter, along with solid, liquid, and gas. The word plasma comes from Greek and it means moldable substance. The name comes from the fact that plasma can be shaped using electromagnetic fields. Plasmas are extremely hot gases that are the result of very high voltage, high frequency electrical field that breaks down the atom in its constituents. This frequency range between 100 kHz and 3.5 MHz. Plasma are composed of negatively charged particles of electrons and positively charged particles like ions. But because of some of the free electrons combine with non-ionized atoms, we also can find negatively charged particles or negative ions. The charges, positive and negative, balance each other, leaving an electrically neutral but conductive medium that behaves like a fluid. Natural plasma sources include cosmic rays in the atmosphere, sunlight, including ultraviolet, natural corona discharge like aurora and lightning. Artificial plasma sources include artificial corona discharge neon signs, plasma treatment tubes, industrial surface treatment devices, and welding arcs device. On the right, you can observe images of natural and artificial plasma sources. How is this working? The tube is first emptied of air and filled with a noble gas, helium, argon, neon, or another one. The electrodes are supplied with high frequency, high voltage energy that creates a strong electromagnetic field. This gives enough energy to the electrodes which causes them to break up from their atoms. The energy partially ionizes the gas that contains charged particles and neutral particles. The tube emits an electromagnetic field that acts on human bodies through induction. The 45 degrees electrode that we can see, you can notice the upper electrode in the image at the right, gives the tube the partially directional antenna property. Recent research confirmed that plasma has the ability to kill tumors and pathogens using a combination of plasma properties and the frequency of electromagnetic field. For medical application, the plasma tube needs to have a low temperature, under 50 degrees Celsius, even though the gases reach high temperatures in the range of thousands of degrees Kelvin. And this is one of the reasons it's called cold plasma. Plasma is the most powerful Rife method, and it's effective in serious diseases like cancer and Lyme. It reaches deep into the tissue and traverses skin and bones. Due to the high efficiency, it requires a shorter treatment time. The plasma emitted by the tube has two types of fields. The near field, it's about 6 inches. It's more effective for treatment. That's why it's recommended to keep the tube closed, even touching the body. The far field can reach up to 60 feet or 20 meters and generate strong signals even through concrete walls. This method is very effective for killing pathogen, but it can be used for healing too. The plasma method may be used alone, but it can be and it is recommended to be used in conjunction with other Rife modalities. Central unit has contact ultrasound and Pmf and can be supplemented with remote on another generator. Because of the high distance that can be reached by the plasma generated by the tubes, the method can be used simultaneously for multiple users with similar problems. It can also be used on pets and plants. The last benefit is that the method is non-invasive and easy to apply. In this image, you can see the Spooky2 central kit. Besides the main unit, you can see two different types of tubes, the phanatron tube and the stride tube. The first one has a spherical shape and it is filled with helium, while the former has a cylindrical shape and is filled with a mixture of helium and argon. The phanatron tube has a better response to higher frequencies up to 3.5 MHz and is partially directional, which makes it more efficient in localized issues. The second one is better suited for generalized issues. Plasma is safe to use with pacemaker and other electronic implants. The other accessories are the Pmf coil, you can see at the lower left corner, the contact pads, and the ultrasonic transducer. These accessories can be used independently, but is recommended to be used with the plasma tube. When used with plasma, the Pmf coil will create electroporation, which means will open the membrane, temporarily the membrane of the pathogen cells, facilitating the penetration of plasma. Without plasma, Pmf can be used to effectively control all type of pain, particularly in bones and joints. Pmf have a fixed frequency and it doesn't require a frequency input from a generator if you use it independently. Because of the magnetic component of the signal, it is not safe to use with pacemaker and other electronic implants. When used with plasma, the contact pads will create electroporation on the human cells, facilitating the penetration of plasma and the killing effect of the intracellular pathogen. When contact pads are used without plasma, the combination of the fixed frequency and the square wave creates an explosion of different higher harmonics, similar to how a zapper works. Contact doesn't require frequency input from a generator. Because of the magnetic components of the signal, it is not safe to use with pacemaker and other electronic implants. Ultrasonic transducer requires frequency input from a generator, and it can be used alone or in combination with plasma. It is safe for those with pacemaker and other electronic implants. but what makes it extra special is that the sound conducts far better in water and solids than does in the air. Since our bodies are over 70% water, this means that ultrasonic can literally flood the entire body with frequency. As you can see, the central unit is connected to the XM generator with two cables using both ports, out 1 and out 2 of the generator. If you use generator X instead, you can run a remote program on the second generator. But it is important to ensure you connect the right outputs and you select the appropriate program. Now that we have familiarized with yourself with the different components of the Rife technology offered by Spooky2, you can make an informed decision as what you need in order to use this technology for a particular problem. First of all, you need one of the two generators offered. As I have already said, the main advantage of generator X is that it will liberate your PC for the duration of the treatment. Then, the most cost-effective way to use Rife technology is to buy the kit that contains the boost, the contact accessories, the PMF, the cold laser, and the remote. In case the budget is a problem, I suggest starting with an XM generator and 10 spots. You can always add later another accessories. In case you are battling a severe illness, plasma is the most effective device. Depending on the type of problem, localized or dispersed, you can choose the appropriate plasma tube. It is still a good idea to buy the boost and the remote to continue the treatment between the plasma sessions. Okay, at this point I have to check something. I have prepared some slides about the software, but the time is we have 2 hours for this, so I will just jump to the how we use it and why. I will leave this for another presentation about the software alone. Let's talk about why would people use Spooky2 Rife equipment. People who benefit most from the use of Spooky2 Rife devices are those with severe health problems. Some people fight for their life because of a life-threatening disease like cancer. Other people are fighting debilitating diseases like Morgellons, Lyme disease, or multiple sclerosis. Others are constantly struggling with chronic disease like diabetes, congestive cardiac failure, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and others. Occasionally, people are affected by cold, influenza, SARS contamination. Other times, they are subject to a pathogen infestation like Candida or mold. Nowadays, a lot of people suffer from allergies, not only to specific foods, but also to allergen in the air that cannot be avoided. All these conditions can be reduced or even eliminated using Spooky2 Rife technologies. However, most people do not have major health problems, but minor health issues are inevitable. We are under constant attack from the environment. Our food, water, air can contain toxic substances and pathogens. So detoxing is something that health-conscious people should do on a regular basis. Age can also come with common problems like visions and hearing deterioration or hair loss. These are things that can be corrected also in time by using Spooky2 equipment. The young and the elderly alike are exposed to tooth and gum decays. The health of our mouth is the high importance to the health of our entire body. This can also be helped with with Rife technologies. Many people of all ages are facing weight control problems in Western countries. Middle-aged people are prone to chronic sleep deprivation, mostly because of the stress at work and or at home. A lot of people found a solution to one or more of these problems by using Spooky2 Rife technology. There are many other minor health problems that can be prevented by using this technology. If you don't have any health problem, you can use Spooky2 Rife and Scalar for prevention. On one hand, our food, water, air do not have all the nutritional qualities and energy we need. On the other hand, we are exposed to high level of stress and emotional trauma daily. In the process, we divert a part of our energy to fight all these battles, and we allocate less energy to maintenance programs like healing and minor battles with pathogens. A little assistance from Spooky2 Rife equipment will help you compensate for this. People can use for prevention the healing and entrainment capability of Rife technology. Spooky2 software offers programs like chakra balancing, meridian stimulation. Also, organ entrainment programs provide the healthy frequency for any of the organs to improve their health. Another option is to use programs that emulate the beneficial effects of mineral, vitamins, and other supplements. Spooky2 software offers programs like Multivitamins and Minerals by John White. There are also programs that stimulate the immune system. People can use either Rife or molecular scalar modes to supply their body with the benefits of minerals, vitamins, supplements to their body. Okay, on the Spooky2 website as well on Facebook, you can find a multitude of testimonials from Spooky2 users. You can check them out for yourself. Now I will talk a little bit about my own experience with Spooky2 Scalar. The reason my wife and I started using Spooky2 Rife and Scalar is prevention. We started with Spooky2 Generator X Essential Kit. The first thing we used was the Terran protocol for detoxification on contact and remote. Because we do a lot of other things for our health, we did not see any noticeable effects. However, we continue to do this protocol once a month. A little bit later, when my wife had a cold, we used the contact pads and we saw an improvement immediately. When we used the cold laser wrist for the blood purification and the cold laser twins to disinfect our sinuses, we had the opportunity to verify the effect of PMF on pain caused by an overworked shoulder. After a while, we acquired the Spooky2 Center with both plasma tubes. We installed it in a little car on a little cart so we could move it around. We use it for general healing and for supplements, micronutrients, vitamins, and minerals. Last summer, my wife fractured her ulna, and the doctor predicted recovery in 8 weeks or more. She used scalar and plasma daily, and the X-ray performed after 6 weeks showed complete healing. Then we decided also buy the Spooky2 scalar, which I have had it for almost 2 years now. We installed it in what we call the healing room, where we have a massage table. Both my wife and myself are using Spooky2 scalar for at least 1 hour a day. Occasionally we remain longer in the scalar and even spend the night. We use it also in Rife mode. I selected a number of programs that can be run in standalone mode on Generator X, like chakra balancing, organs and meridians, essential micronutrients, and so on, to help with general healing. Since I am a Qigong practitioner and a Reiki master, I am very sensitive to Qi, the life force energy. I can feel the scalar field with my hand. More than this, I was able to confirm the size of the scalar field at the center. When I lie in the field, I feel all my body vibrating. The sensation is similar to the one during the Reiki session or after a Qigong practice, only stronger. I personally cannot sleep in the scalar field. On the other hand, my wife loves to sleep in the field. She sleeps better and wakes up energized. As I do not have any significant medical problem, I haven't had any spectacular results after using Spooky2 scalar. What my wife and I noticed though is that our nails grow faster and stronger, our hair grows faster and darker, which are both signs of improved health according to the traditional Chinese medicine. Our optometrist was very pleased at the last annual visit with the state of our eye health. We are both more energetic. We noticed that some age spots on the hands faded or disappeared. Some of our friends that we see once in a while have told us that we look younger. Occasionally we use Rife or scalar technologies to help our children and our grandchildren and other members of the family. The Rife technology is as much a science as it is an art. The science behind it is solid, and it was a history of almost a century. The art is adapting the technology to your own needs. You can do this by close monitoring your body. You can do a journal that will help you to do this. Since there are so many programs, you might trust your intuition and find the best one for you. If you don't see improvement, you need to change the programs. As I already told you at the beginning, my wife and I are doing a lot of things to maintain and improve our health. We are sure that the use of Spooky2 Rife and Scalar technology is one of the best ways to help us maintain our health. This concludes today's presentation. Now is the time for the question and answer. Before I address your inquiries, let's take a look at a few common questions. Which technology is better, Rife or Scalar? Both technologies have their own merit. Generally speaking, Rife technology is more effective in killing pathogen, while Scalar technology gives your body the life-sustaining energy. Can I use both Spooky2 technologies, Rife and Scalar, at the same time? Yes, you can run another program on remote PMF or cold laser while sitting in the scalar field. Is plasma the most effective Rife technology? Plasma was used successfully in 1930s by Royal Rife to treat 16 terminally ill cancer patients. How long and how often should somebody use Rife machines? The answer depends on the type of problem and the equipment used. The best approach is to start small, monitor your health. Neither the Rife nor the Scalar technology creates fatigue or dependence. Can people with implantable electronic devices use Rife equipment? All devices that create current or an electric field are not recommended. Plasma, ultrasonic, and remote are safe for people with implantable electronic devices. I try to cover all the essential aspects of the Rife technology, but I'm sure that many of you still have unanswered questions. I will try to answer those questions to the best of my abilities in the time I have left. But before this, I want to show you a list of resources. There is a lot more to learn after this presentation. There is a list of web pages where you can find more information on Spooky2 website on the left column. Also on the right column you can find Facebook groups that are dedicated to helping people with the technical aspects of the Spooky2 equipment. If after consulting this wealth of information you still have questions, you can contact me via email using the address that appears in the lower right corner of the screen. For attention, it was a pleasure for me to provide this presentation on a subject that I truly love, and I wish everybody a nice evening, and I wish everybody health and happiness. Goodbye, everybody.